In rock climbing, mountaineering and other climbing disciplines, climbers give a grade to a climbing route that concisely describes the difficulty and danger of climbing the route. Different aspects of climbing each have their own grading system, and many different nationalities developed their own distinctive grading systems. There are a number of factors that contribute to the difficulty of a climb, including the technical difficulty of the moves, the strength and stamina required, the level of commitment, and the difficulty of protecting the climber. Different grading systems consider these factors in different ways, so no two grading systems have an exact one-to-one correspondence. Climbing grades are inherently subjective. They may be the opinion of one or a few climbers, are often the first ascensionist of the author of a guidebook. A grade for an individual route may also be a consensus reached by many climbers who have climbed the route. While grades are usually applied fairly consistently across a climbing area, there are often perceived differences between grading at different climbing areas. Because of these variables, a given climber might find a route to be either easier or more difficult than expected for the grade applied. History. In 1894, the Austrian mountaineer Fritz Benisch introduced the first known grading system for rock climbing. The Benisch scale had 7 levels of difficulty, with level 7 the easiest and level 1 the most difficult. Soon more difficult climbs were made, which originally were graded level 0 and 00. In 1923, the German mountaineer Willow Welsenbach compressed the scale and turned the order around, so that level 00 became level IVV. This Welsenbach scale was adopted in 1935 by French mountaineers like Lucien Davies, Pierre-Alain and Armand Charlotte for routes in the Western Alps, and finally in 1947 in Chamonix by the Union Internationale des Associations d'Alpinisme. It prevailed internationally and was renamed in 1968 as the UIA scale. Originally a 6-grade scale, it has been officially open-ended since 1979. Free climbing. For free climbing, there are many different grading systems varying according to country. They include Yosemite Decimal System. The Yosemite Decimal System of grading routes was initially developed as the Sierra Club grading system in the 1930s to rate hikes and climbs in the Sierra Nevada range. The rock climbing portion was developed at Arkwitz Rock in Southern California by members of the rock climbing section of the Angeles chapter of the Sierra Club in the 1950s. It quickly spread to Canada and the rest of the Americas. Originally a single-part classification system, grade and protection rating categories were added later. The new classifications do not apply to every climb and usage varies widely. When a route also involves aid climbing, its unique aid designation can be appended to the YDS free climbing rating. For example, the North America Wall on El Capitan would be classed VI 5.8A5, or Medlicott Dome, Bacha, Yerian 5.11C. Technical difficulty. The system consists of 5 classes indicating the technical difficulty of the hardest section. Class 1 is the easiest and consists of walking on even terrain. Class 5 is climbing on vertical or near vertical rock, and requires skill and a rope to proceed safely. Unroped falls would result in severe injury or death. Originally, Class 6 was used to grade aid climbing. However, the separate aid rating system became popular instead. The original intention was that the classes would be subdivided decimally, so that a route graded 4.5 would be a scramble halfway between 4 and 5, and 5.9 would be the hardest rock climb. Increased standards and improved equipment meant that climbs graded 5.9 in the 1960s are now only of moderate difficulty. Rather than regrade all climbs each time standards improved, additional grades were added at the top, originally only 5.10. but it soon became apparent that an open-ended system was needed, and further grades of 5.11, 5.12, etc. were added. While the top grade was 5.10, a large range of climbs in this grade was completed, and climbers realized a subdivision of the upper grades was required. Later grades were added for climbs at 5.10 and above by adding a letter A, B, C, or D. The system originally considered only the technical difficulty of the hardest move on a route. For example, a route of mainly 5.7 moves but with one 5.11b move would be graded 5.11b, and a climb that consisted of 5.11b moves all along its route would also be 5.11b. Modern application of climbing grades, especially on climbs at the upper end of the scale, also consider how sustained a strenuous climb is. In addition to the difficulty of the single hardest move, length of route, the YDS system involves an optional Roman numeral grade that indicates the length and seriousness of the route. The grade is more relevant to mountaineering and big wall climbing, and usually not stated when talking about short rock climbs. The grades range from grade I to V, spanning a 1-hour climb to a multi-day climb respectively. I2, 1 or 2 pitches near the car, but may need to be avoided during avalanche season. 3 requires most of a day, perhaps including the approach, which may require winter travel skills. The East Buttress route on Mount Whitney is a grade 3, yet it requires 1,000 feet of technical climbing and a total gain of over 6,000 vertical feet from trailhead to summit. Only a minority of climbers, the most fit and seasoned, could do this route car to car in a day. Other grade 3 climbs, such as Cathedral Peak in Tuolumne, are typically done in one day. IV, a multi-pitch route at higher altitude, a remote location, which may involve multi-hour approaches in serious alpine terrain. A pre-dawn start is usually indicated, and unforeseen delays can lead to unplanned bivouacs high on the route. V, a multi-day climbing adventure for all but the elite few. The route, Dark Star, on Temple Crag is grade V and involves a 7-mile approach and over 2,200 feet, 30 pitches of technical climbing. Vi, a multi-day climbing adventure for all. Peter Croft saves this grade for the mythical Palisade Traverse, a massive route which includes 6 14,000-foot summits and miles of technical climbing. He states, "This is the only route in this book that I haven't completed in a single push, although I've done all the crux sections at various times." 7. Under discussion. Protection rating. An optional protection rating indicates the spacing and quality of the protection available for a well-equipped and skilled leader. The letter codes chosen were, at the time, identical to the American system for rating the content of movies. Grades range from solid protection G to no protection X. The G and PG ratings are often left out, as being typical of normal everyday climbing. PG-13 ratings are occasionally included. R and X climbs are usually noted as a caution to the unwary leader. Application of protection ratings varies widely from area to area and from guidebook to guidebook. The British grading system for traditional climbs, also known as the UK grading system, used in Great Britain and Ireland, has 2 parts: the adjectival grade and the technical grade. Sport climbing in Britain and Ireland uses the French grading system, often prefixed with the letter F. Adjectival grade. The adjectival grade attempts to assess the overall difficulty of the climb, taking into account all factors which lend difficulty to a pitch, including technical difficulty, sustainedness, protection quality, rock quality, exposure, and other less tangible aspects. For a climber leading the route on site in traditional style, it thus resembles mountaineering grades such as the International original French adjectival system. The adjectival grade appears to have been introduced by O.G. Jones in the early 20th century, who classified climbs as easy, moderate, difficult, or exceptionally severe. Increasing standards have several times led to extra grades being added. The adjectival grades are as follows: easy, moderate, difficult, hard, difficult, very difficult, hard, very difficult, mild, severe, severe, hard, severe, mild, very severe, hard, very severe, extremely severe. Increasing standards in the 1970s resulted in the adoption of Peter Botterill's proposal that the extremely severe grade be subdivided in an open-ended fashion into E1, E2, E3 and so on. The E grade is still an estimation of overall difficulty experienced by a climber leading a route on site. In 2006, the hardest grade claimed was E11 for Rhapsody on Dumbarton Rock, climbed by Dave McLeod. Featured French 8C+ climbing with the potential of a 20-meter fall onto a small wire. In August 2008, McLeod completed a new project close to Tower Ridge on Ben Nevis called Echo Wall. He left the route ungraded, saying only that it was harder than Rhapsody. Many climbers consider such high grades provisional, as the climbs have not yet been achieved on site, ground up. The grade excess is sometimes used for extremely severe rock climbs when a high proportion of the challenge is due to objective dangers, typically loose or crumbling rock, rather than technical difficulty. Technical grade. The technical grade attempts to assess only the technical climbing difficulty of the hardest move, a short sequence of moves on the route, without regard to the danger of the move or the stamina required if there are several such moves in a row. Technical grades are open-ended, starting at 1 and subdivided into A, B, and C, but are rarely used below 3C. The technical grade was originally a bouldering grade introduced from Fontainebleau by French climbers. Usually the technical grade increases with the adjectival grade, but a hard technical move that is well protected may not raise the standard of the adjectival grade very much. VS4C might be a typical grade for a route. VS4A would usually indicate very poor protection, while VS5B would usually indicate the crux move was the first mover very well protected. On multi-pitch routes it is usual to give the overall climb an adjectival grade and each pitch a separate technical grade. UIAA. The UIAA grading system is mostly used for short rock routes in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Slovakia and Hungary. On long routes it is often used in the Alps and Himalaya. Using Roman numerals, it was originally intended to run from I to Vi, but as with all other grading systems, improvements to climbing standards have led to the system being open-ended after the grade 7 was accepted in 1977. An optional plus or minus may be used to further differentiate difficulty. As of 2004, the hardest climbs are 12-, Scandinavian in Sweden, Norway and Finland. They originally used the UIAA scale, but since it was thought that 6+ would be the definition of how hard humans could climb, no climber wanted to put up this grade, leaving the entire scale very sandbagged compared to the UIAA scale. To show that it is a Scandinavian grade, Arabic numerals are used, and for UIAA-graded climbs in Scandinavia, Roman numerals are used. In some guidebooks, where many Germans have done the first ascent, the UIAA scale is used for those climbs, and where the first ascent is done by a Scandinavian, the Scandinavian scale is used. The only way to know how the climb is rated is to know the first ascentist is German or Scandinavian. In sport climbing, the French scale is pretty common, or both scales are used in the guidebook, with the other scale in parentheses, I. E6+. Saxon grades. The Saxon grading system is used in the Free State of Saxony in Germany and in a derivative form in some areas in the Czech Republic under the name .. It was developed in the beginning of the 20th century for the formidable Saxon Switzerland climbing region and was gradually adopted within other climbing areas in the region, such as Bohemian Switzerland, Bohemian Paradise, Lusatian Mountains, and the Zittau Mountains, due to the climbing particularities of the region and the territorial and political division of Germany from 1945 to 1990. The system developed independently from other grading systems in Germany. During this time it was also sometimes referred to as the East German system. The Saxon grades use Roman numerals to denote the level of difficulty and subdivisions from grade 7 onwards with the aid of the letter A, B and C. XIC is currently the highest grade. In addition, the system accounts for horizontal jumps with Arabic numerals between 1 and 7. French numerical grades. The French numerical system rates a climb according to the overall technical difficulty and strenuousness of the route. Grades start at 1 and the system is open-ended. Each numerical grade can be subdivided by adding a letter. Examples: 2, 4, 4b, 6a, 7c. An optional plus may be used to further differentiate difficulty. For example, these routes are sorted by ascending difficulty: 5c plus, 6a, 6a plus, 6b, 6b plus. Although some countries in Europe use a system with similar grades but not necessarily matching difficulties, the French system remains the main system used in the vast majority of European countries and in many international events outside the USA. The Brazilian grade system is similar to the French system, but with a few adjustments. Gradings 1 to 2 sup are very easy, 3 to 5 are easy, and it progresses till the maximum grade of 12. As of 2007, the suffix sup is used for grades 1 to 6, and the standard French A, B, and C suffix is for grades from 7 on. The 6+ was considered the hardest possible grade until the 1980s, so when an even harder route was established, it was proposed to use French style of letters for the new sporting climbs. So, 1.6+ are classical and 7A and 7B. 12A are sporting grades. Eubank. The Eubank system, used in Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa, was developed in the mid-1960s by John Eubank. Eubank also developed an open-ended M system for aid climbing. The numerical Eubank system is open-ended, starting from 1, which you can walk up, to the 4 climbs located in Australia given the hardest currently confirmed grade of 35. South African and Australian grades differ by 1 or 2 grade points. The Eubank system is not intended to simply grade the hardest individual move on a climb, though the grading system is often described this way. Eubank explained, grading takes the following into consideration: technical difficulty, exposure, length, quality of rock, protection and other smaller factors. As these are more or less all related to each other, I have rejected the idea of 3 or 4 grades, i.e., 1 for exposure, 1 for technical difficulty, 1 for protection, etc. Instead, the climb is given its one general grading, and if any of the other factors is outstanding, this is stated verbally in the short introduction to that climb. The current practice is to make mention of all factors affecting the climber's experience in the description of the climb contained in the guide. Mountaineering. There are several systems in current use to grade mountain climbs. Alpine mountaineering routes are usually graded based on all of the different aspects, as they can be very diverse. Thus, a mountain route may be graded 5.6 A2, WI3, M5 * 70 degrees, 4,000 feet, via many other factors. See also summit post-alpine grades. International French adjectival system. In contrast to the French numerical system, the French adjectival alpine system evaluates the overall difficulty of a route, taking into consideration the length, difficulty, exposure and commitment level of the route. The overall grade combines altitude, length and difficulty of approach and descent, number of difficult pitches and how sustained they are, exposure and quality of rock, snow and ice. These are, in increasing order: F. Facile, straightforward, possibly a glacial approach. Snow and ice will often be at an easy angle. PD. Peu difficile. Routes may be longer at altitude, with snow and ice slopes up to 45 degrees. Glaciers are more complex. Scrambling is harder. Climbing may require some belaying. Descent may involve rappelling. More objective hazards. AD. Of says difficile. Fairly hard. Snow and ice at an angle of 45 to 65 degrees. Rock climbing up to UIA grade 3, but not sustained. Belayed climbing in addition to a large amount of exposed but easier terrain. Significant objective hazard. D. Difficile. Hard, more serious with rock climbing at IV and V, snow and ice slopes at 50 to 70 degrees. Routes may be long and sustained are harder but shorter. Serious objective hazards. TD. Très difficile. Very hard. Routes at this grade are serious undertakings with high level of objective danger. Sustained snow and ice at an angle of 65 to 80 degrees. Rock climbing at grade V and Vi with possible aid. Very long sections of hard climbing. At 1/2, 3/4. Extreme and difficile. Extremely hard. Exceptional objective danger. Vertical ice slopes and rock climbing up to Vi to 8, with possible aid pitches. Abominablement difficile. Difficulty and danger at the limit. Often a plus or a minus is placed after the grade to indicate if a particular climb is at the lower or upper end of that grade. Romania. The alpine routes in Romania are rated in the Russian grading system, and reflecting the overall difficulty of the route. This is why most documentation also contains the UIA free climbing rating of the crux of the route, as well as the aid climbing rating and the then resulting free climbing rate. The routes themselves are, however, usually only marked with the overall grade at the bottom. The grades go from 1 to 7, and a good parallel can be established with the French rating. Instead of plus or minus, the letters A and B are used to designate the lower or upper ends of a grade. New Zealand. An alpine grading system adapted from the grades used in the Aoraki, Mount Cook region is widely used in New Zealand for alpine routes in the North and South Islands. Grades currently go from 1 to 7. The grading system is open-ended. Harder climbs are possible. Factors which determine grade are technical difficulty, objective danger, length and access. Standard grading system for alpine routes in normal conditions. New Zealand grade 1, easy scramble. Use of rope generally only for glacier travel. New Zealand grade 2, steeper trickier sections may need a rope. New Zealand grade 3, longer steeper sections generally. Use of technical equipment necessary. Ice climbs may require 2 tools. New Zealand grade 4, technical climbing. Knowledge of how to place ice and rock gear quickly and efficiently a must. Involves a long day. New Zealand grade 5, sustained technical climbing. May have vertical sections on ice. New Zealand grade 6, multiple crux sections. Vertical ice may not have adequate protection. Good mental attitude and solid technique necessary. May require a bivouac route and be a long way from civilization. New Zealand grade 7, vertical ice, rock which may not have adequate protection. Rock grades in the high 20s. Climb may be in remote area. May require a bivouac route. Alaskan. In the Alaskan grading system, mountaineering climbs range from grade 1 to 6, and factor in difficulty, length, and commitment. The hardest, longest routes are Alaskan grade 6. The system was first developed by Boyd and Everett, Jr. in 1966, and is supposed to be particularly adapted to the special challenges of Alaskan climbing. Here is a summary of Alaska grade descriptors, adapted from Alaska, a climbing guide, by Michael Wooden Colby Coombs. Alaska grade 1 climb requires 1 day only. No technical climbing. Alaska grade 2, either a moderate 5th class 1-day climb, or a straightforward multi-day non-technical climb. Alaska grade 3, either a serious 5th class 1-day climb, or a multi-day climb with some technical elements. Alaska grade 4, multi-day, moderately technical climb. Alaska grade 5, multi-day, highly technical climb. Alaska grade 6, multi-day, extremely technical climb. A plus may be added to indicate somewhat higher difficulty. For example, the West Buttress route on Denali is graded 2+ in the above-mentioned guidebook. It is important to remember that even an Alaska grade 1 climb may involve climbing on snow and glaciers in remote locations and cold weather. Russian. In post-USSR countries, there is Russian grading system. It includes range from grade 1A 6B, and factor in difficulty, altitude, length, and commitment like in Alaskan grade 1 at any type of ascent which can be regarded as more than simple hiking. No lower limit of ascent in meters and no specified elevation is needed to qualify for this grade. Grade 1B, easy ascent of a peak between 2,000 to 5,000 meters over rocks, with sections of snow and ice or mixed ground. Grade 2A, ascent of more than 500 meters on a peak between 2,000 to 6,000 meters. It traverses at this height on rocks, snow or ice with rock pitches of up to 2, or snow and ice sections of up to 100 meters of 2. Grade 2B, ascent of a peak between 2,000 to 6,000 meters. Traverses at this height on rock, snow and ice with short sections of grade 3 rock or ice. Some pitons for belaying. Grade 3A, ascent of a peak between 2,500 to 6,500 meters. Traverses at this height on rock, snow and ice. Route length up to 600 meters with long passages of 2 on rock and ice. Grade 3B, ascent on a peak between 2,500 to 6,500 meters. Traverses at this height on rock, snow and ice. Difficulties might include rock pitches of 20 to 30 meters or more and snow and ice sections of 200 to 300 meters of difficulty 3, or shorter passages of IV. Grade 4A, ascent on a peak between 2,500 to 7,000 meters. Traverses at this height. The route would include 20 to 50 meters rock pitches of IV, or snow and ice sections of 200 to 300 meters or more of IV. The route might take 6 to 8 hours or more and require pitons belays. Traversers of this grade would combine at least 5 routes of grade 3B or combinations equivalent to this. Grade 4B, ascent on a peak between 2,500 to 7,000 meters. Traverses at this height with rock sections of 40 to 80 meters of IV, or short passages of V, and snow and ice sections of 300 to 400 meters or more of IV. The route would normally take 8 to 10 hours or more and require the insertion of 8 to 10 pitons or more for belaying. Traverses would include at least 2 routes of grade 4A. Grade 5A, ascent on a peak between 3,000 to 7,500 meters. Traverses at this height. The route would have long rock sections of IV with some pitches of V, or snow and ice sections of 300 to 400 meters or more of V. The route could take 10 to 15 hours or more and would require the insertion of 20 to 40 pitons or more for belaying. Traverses combine at least 2 routes of grade 4B and 1 route of grade 4A. Grade 5B, ascent on a peak between 3,000 to 7,500 meters. Her traverses at this height. The route would have long sections of IV with pitches of up to 50 meters of V and short sections of I, or snow and ice sections of 600 to 800 meters or more of V. The route would take 15 to 20 hours and require the insertion of 30 to 50 pitons or more for belaying. Traverses combine at least 2 routes of grade 5A. Grade 6A, ascent on a peak over 3,600 meters. Her traverses at this height on rocks and mixed ground. Sustained difficulty with an average grade of IVV and pitches of 20 meters or more of I. The route would take 40 to 50 hours and require the insertion of 100 to 150 pitons or more for belaying. Traverses combine at least 3 routes of grade 5B. Grade 6B, ascent of at least 1,000 meters on a peak over 4,500 meters at traverses of this height. Sustained difficulty of pitches at or over grade V. The route would take more than 48 hours to complete. Insertion of more than 250 belaying points. Usually this grade is reserved for the highest and most difficult peaks or desperate routes on lower peaks. Extremely hard routes on peaks below 4,500 meters can sometimes qualify for 6B.